A single shell lies on a workbench in a quiet studio in Tongyong. It is thinner than a fingernail, iridescent, catching every color the light can offer. The craftsman lifts it with the tip of a knife, and for a moment the room fills with green, violet, and rose. This is where the story begins, with one shell and the patience to imagine 1,000 more. The art is called Najeon Chilgi. The name itself is a description. Najeon meaning inlaid mother-of-pearl and Chilgi meaning lacquerware. Together they name a craft that has defined Korean decorative art for more than 1,000 years. It is an art of two materials, the shell of the sea and the sap of a tree, bound into a single luminous surface. The lacquer comes from the namu, the Korean lacquer tree. Its sap is harvested drop by drop, filtered, aged, and applied in translucent layers. Each coat must cure for days in a humid, dust-free chamber before the next can follow. A finished box may carry 20, 30, even 40 coats of lacquer, each one polished by hand. The shell comes from abalone, conch, and turban snail, gathered along the southern coasts. Only the inner nacre is used, the pearlescent lining that grows in microscopic layers. Artisans call it jaggi, and they prize the shells of the southern seas for their depth of color. A single ornate box can consume the harvest of hundreds of shells. The technique arrives in Korea during the unified Silla period, in the 8th and 9th centuries. Court craftsmen adapt lacquer methods from Tang China and apply them to a native aesthetic. By the time the Goryeo dynasty rises in the 10th century, Najeon Chilgi has already begun to develop its own distinct voice. That voice will soon become one of the most refined in East Asia. The Goryeo period, from 918 to 1392, is the first golden age of the craft. Goryeo Najeon becomes so celebrated that it is sent as tribute to the courts of Song China and beyond. The style favors dense, meticulous compositions, chrysanthemums, peonies, scrolling vines, and lotus arabesques. Each blossom is assembled from dozens of tiny shell fragments, cut and fitted like a mosaic. Fewer than 20 pieces of Goryeo Najeon survive in the world today. They rest in museums in Seoul, Tokyo, Boston, and Amsterdam. Most are small sutra boxes, made to hold Buddhist scripture, their surfaces blackened with age. Under a raking light, however, the shell still glows, the same soft fire that captivated a Chinese ambassador 900 years ago. In 1123, the Song envoy Su Jing visits the Goryeo court and records what he sees. He writes that the lacquerwork of Korea is exquisite, and that the mother-of-pearl inlay is beyond praise. His account, the Jaili Tujing, is one of the earliest written testimonies to the craft. It confirms that by the 12th century, Korean Najeon has become an international treasure. The Joseon dynasty, founded in 1392, transforms the style. Confucian taste favors restraint over Buddhist opulence, and the compositions open up. Empty black lacquer becomes as important as the shell that decorates it. A pine tree stands alone against darkness, a crane lifts into a sky of pure void. The eye is invited to breathe. New motifs enter the vocabulary. Grapes and squirrels symbolize abundance and many descendants. Cranes and turtles promise longevity. Plum blossoms and bamboo signal moral endurance through hardship. Each Najeon chest becomes a quiet sermon in shell, a wish, a blessing, a prayer laid down in nacre. The workshop process is exacting. First, a wooden core is shaped from paulownia or pine, chosen for its lightness and stability. Cloth is glued to the surface to prevent cracking, then coated with a mixture of lacquer and clay. Only after the ground is smooth and hard can the design begin. The foundation alone may take months. The shell itself must be prepared. Craftsmen soak it in vinegar or seawater to soften the outer layers, then peel it into sheets thinner than paper. These sheets are cut with tiny saws, chisels, and knives into the shapes of petals, leaves, and feathers. In one technique called cake-unium, the shell is first cracked into a web of hairline fractures. The result glitters like frost on a black pond. Another technique is called jurium. Long, thin strips of shell are twisted and laid down to form curving stems, tendrils, and the outlines of clouds. The strips are so fine that a master can bend them around a circle no larger than a coin. Every curve is set by hand, one strip at a time. A single vine may take a full day. Once the design is complete, more layers of lacquer are painted over the entire surface, shell and all. The piece disappears beneath a black, glossy skin. Then comes the slow reveal. The artisan grinds the surface with charcoal, then with progressively finer stones, then with the palm of the hand. The shell emerges through the darkness like stars appearing at dusk. By the 18th and 19th centuries, Najeon Chilgi spreads beyond the royal court. Wealthy merchant households commission wardrobes, sewing boxes, headrests, and writing tables. Bridal chests glitter with pairs of ducks and blooming peonies, promising a happy marriage. A well-made Najeon chest is expected to last for generations, and many do. Then the 20th century arrives, and with it, catastrophe. The Japanese colonial period, industrial lacquers, and the Korean War disrupt the craft. Workshops close, masters die, and cheap imitations flood the market. By the 1950s, the traditional techniques of Goryeo and Joseon Najeon are in danger of vanishing entirely. What survives in the hands of a very few. In 1966, the South Korean government designates Najeon Chilgi as Important Intangible Cultural Property No. 10. The designation is meant to protect the craft by naming and supporting its living masters. Artisans such as Kim Bong-ryong and later Song Bang-woong are recognized as human cultural treasures. Their responsibility is not only to make but to teach. The city of Tongyong on the southern coast becomes the modern heart of the craft. Its harbors supply the shells, its workshops keep the techniques alive. Apprentices spend a decade learning to cut a single leaf correctly. They learn that the shell will not forgive impatience and that the lacquer will not forgive haste. The sea and the tree set the tempo. Today, contemporary artists carry Najeon Chilgi into new forms. Panels appear in galleries in Seoul, Paris, and New York. Designers set shell into furniture, jewelry, even the interiors of automobiles. Yet the essential act remains unchanged: a fragment of shell, a drop of lacquer, a hand that will not hurry. 1,000 shells still make one lacquer box. In the quiet studio in Tongyong, the craftsman lowers the last sliver of nacre into place. He sets down his knife and waits for the lacquer to dry as his teachers waited, and their teachers before them. Outside, the tide turns, and somewhere on the seafloor a new shell is growing. The art of Najeon Chilgi is patient. It has always known how to wait.